I always knew there was something weird about my closet. It was a small space, barely big enough to fit all my clothes, but I often felt like there was something else in there with me. One night when I was home alone, I heard scratching coming from inside the closet. At first, I thought it might be a mouse or a rat, but the sound was too deliberate, too rhythmic, too human. My heart pounding, I approached the closet door and placed my hand on the knob. It was cold to the touch, like something out of a horror movie. I tried to turn the knob, but it wouldn't budge. That's when I heard the breathing. It was shallow but audible, and it seemed to be coming from just on the other side of the door. Suddenly, there was a loud thump from inside the closet, like something heavy had fallen over. I jumped back, tripping over a pile of clothes and landing hard on the floor. For a few moments, I lay there, trying to catch my breath and wondering what was happening. Then, there was a low, growling noise, like an animal in pain, and the scratching resumed. I knew I had to get out of the room, but I was frozen with fear. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? There's something in my closet. That wouldn't exactly be a credible report. Instead, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I picked up a baseball bat that was lying nearby and slowly approached the closet door. With trembling hands, I reached for the knob and turned it as hard as I could. The door swung open with a creak, revealing the dark interior of the closet. At first, I couldn't see anything. Then, as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw the eyes staring back at me. They were human eyes, but they glowed with a feral, hungry light. I screamed and swung the bat, but it was too late. The creature inside the closet lunged at me with lightning speed, knocking the bat out of my hands and pinning me to the ground. It was then that I realized the horrible truth. I was not alone in my home, and I was not dealing with a human being. I was dealing with a monster. It was my first time babysitting for the family down the street. The parents left strict instructions to put the kids to bed by 9 p.m. and not let them watch any scary movies. But as soon as the parents were gone, the kids begged me to watch a horror movie with them. I reluctantly agreed, but as the movie progressed, I started to feel like someone was watching us from the shadows. At first, I brushed it off as my imagination. I was young and easily spooked, and the movie we were watching was definitely not helping matters. But as the night wore on, the feeling only grew stronger. It was like a prickling sensation on the back of my neck, a sense of dread that I couldn't shake. Then, just as the movie was reaching its climax, the power went out. The room was plunged into darkness, and the kids started screaming. I tried to calm them down, telling them it was just a power outage. But I couldn't deny that I was scared too. I had a flashlight with me, but even with the beam shining, I couldn't see anything outside of its cone of light. That's when I heard the sound. It was a scraping noise, like something heavy being dragged across the floor. I didn't know what to do. I was supposed to be the responsible one, the one in charge, but I was paralyzed with fear. Then I heard a low growling noise, and I knew we were in trouble. I grabbed the kids and tried to make a run for it, but the growling only grew louder, and I realized that it was coming from inside the house. As we made our way down the hallway, the scraping noise continued, getting closer and closer. I thought about hiding in one of the bedrooms, but I knew we wouldn't be safe there. We had to get out of the house. We finally made it to the front door, but it wouldn't open. It was like something was holding it shut from the other side. I tried pushing and pulling, but it wouldn't budge. That's when I heard the laughter. It was a high-pitched, maniacal laughter, and it was coming from right behind us. I turned around and shone my flashlight into the darkness, and that's when I saw it. It was a figure, shrouded in shadow, with glowing red eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. It was like something out of a nightmare. I screamed and pulled the kids behind me, trying to shield them from the creature, but it was no use. The creature lunged at us with incredible speed, knocking me to the ground and grabbing one of the kids with its powerful jaws. The other kid started crying, and I knew I had to do something. I reached for a nearby lamp and swung it at the creature as hard as I could. It let out a howl of pain and released the kid, who ran screaming out the door. I grabbed the other kid and followed, trying to put as much distance as possible between us and the creature. When we finally made it outside, we saw that the whole neighborhood was in chaos. People were running in all directions, screaming and shouting. It was like something had been unleashed upon the world, something ancient and evil that had no place in our modern world. As we ran, I realized that I had been changed forever by that night. I was no longer a naive teenager, but a survivor, a warrior. I had seen the face of true horror, and I knew that it was only a matter of time before it found me again. I always felt like there was something wrong with the mirror in my bathroom. It was an antique, passed down through my family for generations, and there was something eerie about the way it reflected the world around it. Sometimes when I looked into the mirror, I could see things that weren't there, things that shouldn't be there. One night, when I was home alone, I was brushing my teeth when I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, but there was nothing there. I turned back to the mirror, and that's when I saw it. A face staring back at me from inside the glass. At first, I thought it was just my reflection, but as I looked closer, I saw that it was something else. It was a face I didn't recognize, with features that were twisted and distorted. It was like a funhouse mirror, but much, much worse. I tried to turn away, but I couldn't. It was like the face was holding me captive, drawing me in with its malevolent gaze. I felt like I was drowning, suffocating, like I was being consumed by the darkness. Then suddenly, the face spoke. It was a voice that was both familiar and alien, like it was coming from inside my own head. It said my name, and I felt a cold shudder run through me. It was like the face knew me, like it had been waiting for me to see it. I stumbled backwards, tripping over the bath mat and crashing to the ground. When I looked back up, the face was still there, staring at me with those twisted features. I tried to stand up, but my legs felt like lead. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move. And then slowly, the face began to stretch and distort, growing larger and larger until it filled the entire mirror. I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I turned to see my friend standing there. He had let himself in with his spare key, and he had seen the look of terror on my face. "What's wrong?" he asked, looking at me with concern. I pointed at the mirror, but when we looked back, the face was gone. The mirror reflected only my own terrified expression. We talked for a while, and my friend convinced me that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But I knew deep down that it was something more, something darker. and I couldn't shake the feeling that the face was still out there, waiting for me to let my guard down.